I've said before, I'll say it again, the most unjust expectation, that one that falls only on Palestinians, is that they should move on, regardless of the lives lost, of the limbs lost, of the loved ones lost. To have entire families obliterated and move on, to lose everything, everything you love, everything you built, everything you are, and be expected to just move on. But vengeance and hatred lead nowhere. Violence is an impasse. More bloodshed cannot be the answer. Justice and peace are the only way forward. But will these millions of Palestinians have justice? Will they be able to finally live in peace in their ancestral land? There is no Israeli security at the expense of Palestinian lives and Palestinian rights. There's no coexistence with occupation and subjugation. There is freedom for Palestine and its people, and shared peace, shared security, shared prosperity for Palestinians, Israelis, the people of the region, and the world. And here let me quote a very important historical document, the US Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We cannot formulate it any better. We are endowed by the same Creator with these same unalienable rights. Peace cannot come from the denial of these rights. It comes from their fulfillment. We are not less worthy of freedom, not less entitled to security, not less able to contribute to shared prosperity. Enough dispossession, enough displacement, enough death, enough despair. In Gaza, but also in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, where tens of thousands have been displaced, many have been killed, and where many communities are under constant attack. What do we tell Afaf Abu Aliya, a 55-year-old woman, mother of 5, knocked unconscious with a club by an Israeli settler as she was harvesting olives in Tormos Aya, and beaten again while she lied unconscious on the ground? Israeli settlers' attacks have intensified. You have all condemned them without exception, but this condemnation does not protect our people from these repeated attacks. These extremist settlers, together with occupation forces, spread fear and violence in the hope to intimidate and displace and push annexation in all directions. Till when? People killed and maimed and arbitrarily detained, homes demolished, settlements built, land expropriated, communities uprooted. Till when? If after a century of conflict and dispossession and displacement and wars and occupation and colonization and blockade and walls, if after the 7th of October, if after genocide in Gaza, we are not yet convinced that it is time for peace, that we owe future generations peace, what will ever convince us? Mr. President, over the course of the last few weeks, the entire world rallied around clear objectives, following unbelievable outrage across the globe. From the Global Alliance launched by Saudi Arabia, the EU, and Norway, to the Madrid Group, to the Hague Group, to those who recognize the state of Palestine, and among those around the table, the last among them to have joined, France and the UK, that I want to acknowledge here, to Algeria and the members of this council, all working for an end to the horrors and moving towards peace. And the International Peace Conference, co-chaired by Saudi Arabia and France, which demonstrated true leadership at its helm, and which endorsed the New York Declaration, a landmark document that charts a path forward to peace. The world mobilized for an independent and sovereign Palestinian state, for the two-state solution. They mobilized for peace. Palestine is committed to peace. It is committed to the full implementation of the New York Declaration. which charts a clear and irreversible path to freedom, peace, and regional integration. It will do its part, and it continues to commit to you here, once again, we will uphold our obligations. We are implementing our commitments, and we expect others to do their part and to uphold their obligations. Mr. President, we and many others around the world welcome the efforts of President Trump for peace and pledge to work with the US administration and with regional and international partners to move from a ceasefire to just and lasting peace. As was stated by the United States, it is for Palestinians to govern themselves. There is no substitute to Palestinian self-determination. There is a critical role for regional and international actors and mechanisms in support of Palestinian governance and independent statehood, and not as a substitute to them. We need to work together to ensure success. The task is monumental, but it is worth it. It requires collective and coordinated efforts. There were efforts and plans before, but maybe there was never before such momentum for peace, stemming from horrors the region witnessed the last 2 years. Just peace will change the face of the region and the fate of its peoples. The independence of the State of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution will pave the way for regional integration, a prospect many thought and still think impossible, but that is within grasp if we collectively decide to rid the region of wars and occupation and finally choose shared peace, shared security, and shared prosperity. It is time to end this conflict once and for all, so people never experience such pain and loss again, and all peoples can live in peace and security. These last few days, Mr. President, we saw families reunite, finally. Some with their loved ones still alive, able finally to embrace them, and some whose bodies were returned to be buried and to be mourned. There are still families waiting for their loved ones. We keep them in our minds. As the world tracked the release of 20 Israeli hostages, as it should, thousands of Palestinian prisoners were being released with undeniable evidence of the ill and degrading treatment they were subjected to. As the world followed the search for the bodies of 28 Israeli hostages, it must not forget that under the same rubble, you have the bodies of thousands upon thousands of bodies of Palestinians. This should be a moment to remind us all of our shared humanity, of the suffering future generation can and must be spared. This should not happen any longer. Regardless what camp you belong to, what cause you defend, what right you proclaim, no one should ever justify harming civilians, abducting them, torturing them, killing them. No one should ever justify holding remains, sometimes for years and decades, and depriving families from their ability to offer them dignified burial. Summary execution are never acceptable, regardless who commits them. No one should explain that there is any title or any right that can justify atrocities. No one, never, ever, under any circumstances. Mr. President, Gaza is an integral part of Palestine. Families in Gaza suffered more than enough. They have no homes to return to, no schools, no hospitals. Bombardments cannot continue taunting and haunting them. Aid cannot continue to be weaponized, as was said by the International Court of Justice yesterday. The ceasefire must be upheld. There is no other choice. Reconstruction must proceed, and we support all efforts in this regard and look forward to the conference in Cairo towards that aim. And here, allow me to thank the mediators for their relentless efforts that led to the Sharm el-Sheikh Agreement. Egypt, which endured smearing campaigns and attacks. Qatar, whose territory was struck by Israel as it was mediating. Turkey, which joined these mediation efforts, and the United States. And let us speak plainly. The United States is a superpower, and as such, it has always a choice to fuel the fire or to help cease the fire. In this case, President Trump used all his weight to achieve a ceasefire agreement that saves lives and that releases the hostages. We all listened to the chants on Hostages Square in Tel Aviv. They know there would be no agreement without President Trump. And the region and the world mobilized around his effort as they understand that this is a chance for life, for freedom, and for peace. They understand he alone can save Israel from itself and from the temptation of brutal and indiscriminate force and annexation that has isolated it around the world. The 2 votes in the Knesset yesterday demonstrate that Israel has yet to renounce this path. Other policies and other measures and other statements as well. But we appreciate the clear message from the Trump administration against any push for annexation. We will work with President Trump, with regional and international partners, to transform a fragile and volatile ceasefire into just and lasting peace, with Palestinian agency and Palestinian liberation as our goal, with mutual recognition and peaceful coexistence as cornerstones. What we need is not a pause in the violence and injustice, but an end to them. Violence is an impasse. It must not be fueled nor tolerated. It must be stopped. And we will not relent in our rejection of violence against all civilians. Likewise, injustice must never be justified or shielded. It must be brought to an end. Palestine is committed to peace. We are the ones who need it most, and peace needs to be a shared objective to become a shared reality. We must seize this opportunity to end the suffering and work for freedom and peace, regardless of how great the challenges are. Help us demonstrate to our people that there is a peaceful path to freedom and to dignified life. The efforts to undermine the Palestinian Authority and its ability to perform its duties despite its full-fledged commitment to peace that has been put to test over the course of the last 2 years in unbelievable manners, aims at preventing our independence and our statehood. If there are requirements placed on the Palestinian Authority, it must be empowered to fulfill them. And Israel has also obligations that need to be monitored and implemented. We will not shy away from our obligations and from our commitments. We owe to our people